and the minorities in the former eastern region have been pushed under the south.
Who is a minority?
The Jaws, the Effiks.
A minority against who?
I'm saying, do they include?
No, I'm asking you, you're a journalist. Minority against who? I cannot be in my father's compound. You come and say I'm a minority. Minority, there has to be a definition.
To the extent that people have resorted to, out of confusion, out of dejection and frustration, to start looking up to the bandits and the terrorists as their safe havens. They are beginning to listen to them. I can tell you there are areas where they are arbitrating, where they are mediating.
The bandits.
The bandits.
Yes.
They are beginning to recognize them, to have conversation with them offline, to say, you know what? We don't want problem. Please let us live.
What do you want?
They share the proceeds of their farm with them. They pay them taxes.
Create Confederation states of this to survive.
According to what they're saying, we were told clearly that going forward, information about Boko Haram or Israel attack should not be made public until after the 2027 elections. I mean, Barrister.
Look at what they are saying until after 2027. So what will now happen after that time? What will now happen? By that time, this terrorism will have become bolder and become emboldened, and it will be difficult for you to confront them. I said this military, they have failed me, seriously. They have failed me and Nigerians, because I don't see how these ragtag insurgents can keep them so busy for over 15 years now.
Honestly, I wanted to say Nigerians, because this is what Ojukwu was crying. This is what the Igbo saw since decades ago, that this thing is not working out. Now it is touching everybody. It is touching them there in the north, in the middle belt. Everybody is touching them now. But they saw these things earlier and we are crying, let's go, let's everybody go on their own based on Aburi Accord. But you people refused. Other parts of Nigerians, they refused. One Nigeria. One Nigeria. What is happening now? Do you believe that I'm going to show you a video, real life narrative of what is happening in the north, where people now trust terrorists more than their government, and they are paying taxes to terrorists. So it means that terrorists are now in charge of the government, that terrorists have taken over the government, and nothing happened. So a place where there is state governor, a place where there are local government chairman, a place where there is the president, and some group of people now took over some communities, chased the people that are the indigenous, part of that community, and take over, and nothing happens. What is going on? What really is going on? This thing is coming down now. It is coming down gradually. In fact, these guys have positioned themselves that even the government are handicapped somehow. The government. Because if they have not positioned themselves in the government would have done something tangible to quench the activities. So, but we now have a sympathetic government, meaning that they are part of the government.
That in some parts of Nigeria, and I can be fact-checked, people are becoming so disillusioned with government, and let us be also very frank about the state governors. The state governors are also culprits. They have failed woefully in running their states. It's not just an issue of the federal government. To the extent that people have resorted to, out of confusion, out of dejection and frustration, to start looking up to the bandits and the terrorists as their safe havens. They are beginning to listen to them. I can tell you there are areas where they are arbitrating, where they are mediating.
The bandits.
The bandits.
Yes.
They are beginning to recognize them, to have conversation with them offline, to say, you know what? We don't want problem. Please let us live.
What do you want?
They share the proceeds of their farm with them. They pay them taxes. And they even give them some level of protection from other factions of this banditry. This is the reality, ladies and gentlemen. It is so bad that there are some part of Zamfara and some part of Northwest where the bandits will go to a family house, tell the man to release his daughters, for them to take them into the bush and use them and rape them and bring them back for safety. Otherwise, they will kill everybody and go with the people. This is how bad things are. I don't know what Mr. President is hearing. I don't know what the NSA and others are hearing. But what I know for a fact is there is nobody that will pretend they don't know what is happening in Nigeria, because we have extended families, we have brothers and sisters. And I know for a fact Mr. President in 2013, in 2014, criticized the government of President Goodluck Jonathan, called him incompetent and visionless, and that the inability to allow the to get back the Chibok girls meant that he should resign. And to the extent that he said, in fact, the government was lying and denying reality. It sounds like deja vu for me, Mr. Onoja. That now the same government is refusing to listen to some of us that speak truth to power. That even when the incumbent does right, we encourage them. That we advise them when it is okay. That we are known to be neutral in this issue, but for the purpose or the progress of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, they live in that denial. It appears in this country, the political class choose what to believe in and what not. But the issue is this. The opposition political parties don't matter anymore. The anger, building into the minds of Nigerians due to cost of living, due to insecurity. I told you. And what it means is with over 10 million northern Nigerians and Almajiris out of school, they are getting recruited in droves into these, groups of bandits and terrorists. Yes. It will get to a point whereby, to land with what Mr. Onoja said, we wouldn't want a situation whereby we may have elections or a pretense of it, and we have people elected in office because they think the police or the army can protect them, with profound respect to them. The numbers are not adding up, and we will not have a country. That is going to be the problem, because at the end of the day, where will we all be? Russian Revolution in my mind, French Revolution in my mind, and all those principal actors in the Arab Spring, the leaders now, where are they? Where are their family? What legacy do the political class want to leave behind? Except we are living in denial. This is just a scratch in the surface with regards to the extent the insecurity has pushed us. Now insecurity is creeping into Kanu. Magwai, Shanonu, bordering Katsina are now being constantly attacked, and people are saying it's not happening. People are eating from dustbin in some villages in Kanu and Jigawa. People are eating a weed called tafasa. Tafasa is a weed in the bush. Of course, we eat it from time to time. But now the goats and the sheep are competing for tafasa with human beings. And that is how sad the reality is moving into this election. And that is why it is important to make a level playing field, open the political space, allow opposition to thrive. But more importantly, Mr. President, stop listening to all those political leaders, especially from northern Nigeria. Majority of them are lying to you. They are not telling you the reality. Open the political space, deliver the dividends of democracy the best you can. That is what should be.
That thing you are seeing there, the video that I just played, is a tip of the iceberg. Because I know when I started hearing that arrangement in the north, Niger State in particular, I remember when I started hearing that in Niger State, such arrangement, to tell you that it is not today that these guys took over. It is not today. Yes, I'm going to show you a video of one Yoruba man, what he's saying. Though what he's saying is true, because he's not the only one that have said it, but it is pure truth that is going to save this country, but it's not going to work again, because these guys have taken over everywhere. Even the part of government, they are there. When you recruit them back into the system, are they not part of government? And the people that are already in existence. You see, what this man is saying would have made sense earlier. Earlier would have made sense. And that is what exactly that Ojukwu said, and the arrangement of their buri. Listen to him.
So that you are defeating the Nigerian army, or the Nigerian army is having a rough time with you, doesn't mean you are strong. At all. Doesn't mean. That is why, if you look, the Fulani people are about 50 million. 7.5 million of that 50 million are men of war. And they are contending against 350,000. If they never kill, they reach 300 now. Nigerian army, right? So the right thing to do, if the government is willing, is to create confederal republics of stakeholders. Yoruba is a stakeholder. Hausa, Southwest is a stakeholder. Northwest is a Southwest is a stakeholder. Northwest is a stakeholder. Middle Belt is a stakeholder. Northeast is a stakeholder. South is a stakeholder. Southeast is a stakeholder. Create confederation states of this to survive. That is to survive. If you don't want to survive, don't create it. What we have is, we have mushroom federal babies. That is the states. Because I even like the National Assembly want to create more states, more local government. Those are mushrooms. And the terrorists, those are the federal government wants to create more states. They want to create more mushroom states, one federal babies that the terrorists will just pick and swallow. But when you create Oduduwa Republic or Igbo region, you create Kwararafa region, Biafra region, Niger Delta region, Midwestern region, and create all this. There is no terrorist that will go there and come back alive. Because you will have mobilized at least 2.5 million able-bodied people who are ready to die for their land. If you return all the soldiers that are in the military, go back to your region. Those that are looking like they are helpless in the Nigerian army, when they come back to their own regional army, Republic army, you'll be surprised. The terrorists cannot stand them. Now the Fulani is enjoying what you can call, they are united, they have all the powers, they have all the connections to the outside to help them. Oduduwa doesn't have any country that is helping them. Middle Belt doesn't have any country that is interested in their welfare. But Fulani has Turkey, Iran, and all those places backing them in this project. The youngest, even a primary school level pupil in Fulani, knows how to assemble AK-47. Our graduates, of all these people that I'm talking about, I've never seen an AK-47 before. So they are far ahead in their militarization. So the other zones who are not yet militarized should be held to militarize themselves before the Fulani assume that when they conquer the national army, Nigerian army, or when they overpower Nigerian army to submission, then all of us have been conquered. It's a wrong assumption that the president should help us to correct.
So if you listen to this man very well, everything he said is the only way out. And this is what I have been talking about in some of my videos. I've been agitating for this. Look, the only way out to be liberated from the ends of this Islamic jihadist, Fulani terrorist, is for us to have a regionalized confederation of states. Let Oduduwa Nation, for example, be confederated. Let them manage their own security, their own military. Let them have the autonomy to do all of these things. Let IPOB be confederated. Let them manage their own military. Let them manage their borders, their territory. The same thing goes to Niger Delta military. Demand. Let these people manage their territory, manage their resources, and all of that. All the way to Middle Belt, even the Fulanis. Let them be confederated. Let them manage their own resources by themselves. Just like the way the Fulani are powerful, let every other region too be powerful. I wouldn't know why 50 million population of Fulanis is holding Nigeria ransom just because they have the backing of Islamic nation, they have the backing of Iran, Turkey. If we can confederate our region, then IPOB, for example, we have access to Israel, we have access to US. The same thing goes with MEND, the same thing goes with Oduduwa nations. They also have access to, external powers, just like the way the Fulani has access to Iran and to external powers. If not, this country will be run over by Islamic jihadists, Fulani terrorists, just like what just happened. What happened in Mali? Yes, they just run over Mali, killing the Minister of Defense, just like that. But the reason why they've not been able to achieve this in Nigeria is because Nigeria is very big and populated. Although Mali, in terms of landmass, is bigger than Nigeria. But in terms of population, they are very little, very small. I think about 26 million in population, compared to Nigeria that is about over 300 million in population. So the confusion of the Fulani is that if they can conquer the northern part of Nigeria, then I'm talking about the Fulani terrorists now. If they can conquer the northern part of Nigeria, then the southern part of Nigeria can be conquered by foreign mercenaries. That is why they have to, ignorantly, they have to make Tinubu ignorantly signed the agreement with Turkey. And Turkey is coming to this country, not to go and situate at the northern part of Nigeria, but they are coming to the southern part of Nigeria, to the coastal areas. That means they want to situate around southern part of Nigeria, around the Niger Delta, around the southeast, in order for them to frame up these people for terrorism. We have peace in this part of the world. It is only in the northern part of Nigeria you see terrorism every day by these Islamic terrorists, Fulani jihadists. So this is their plan. They know they are very little in population, about 50 million Fulani. They know they cannot take over Nigeria. But because they have access to foreign, powers, they can now, bring these people to Nigeria to cause unrest, chaos in this country. So, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if you can confederate this country now, if you can create a regionalized government where every region will have the autonomy to manage their own military, manage their territory, insecurity will die its natural death. And this is what we're expecting you to do, and prosperity will remember you for that. But if you will not do it, God in heaven will remove you and replace you with somebody who will do this.
Well, you have heard what the man is saying about how to curtail these extremist, activities in Nigeria. And that is the pure truth about the matter. But the possibility is quite difficult. It's not that Nigerians cannot, get stronghold of their country with determination. It will happen. So, but Nigeria, where people are divided by tribe and religion, you see, it's difficult to happen. That is the problem. And these people, the British, have done this calculation before merging us together. If you jam people head together, it will be easier for you to be collecting what you are collecting from behind. When people are busy fighting themselves, you enter, be picking what you are picking. And that is the wisdom of Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu said that there is nothing like a minority in Nigeria. How can you come and say that this person is minority? Meanwhile, the person is related to the majority. You get the point? All these minorities you are seeing, the people that we call minority, they have lineage link with the majorities. According to what Nnamdi Kanu said. And if you look at it critically, you see it. The Igbos, the ones we call the Atas, the one we call of Idoma, all these people have the same lineage. So they are not minority. We are all one. We are together. So, having said that, let's have a view of what the Mazen Nnamdi Kanu said when it comes to that issue of minority and South-South, carving out South-South, divide and rule system.
The reason why I want Mazen Nnamdi Kanu to be released from prison immediately is the same reason why Nigeria and the imperialists do not want him to be released. It's shocking, right? Okay, just watch this video. Take a few minutes to watch this video of Onyendu I'm about to play for you. And you understand why exactly they had him locked in that prison and are afraid of what he's capable of if he is released. Listen to this.
Does your supposed coming Republic of Biafra include the Southern people?
There is nobody called South-South. You've read geography. We are in geography. In the cardinal points, you have South-South before.
I mean, with the state of Nigeria, there's 6 geopolitical zones, and we have to face the fact that there's 6 geopolitical zones, and the minorities in the former eastern region have been pushed under the south.
Who is a minority?
The Jaws, the Effiks.
A minority against who?
I'm saying, do they include?
No, I'm asking you. You're a journalist. Minority against who? I cannot be in my father's compound. You come and say I'm a minority. Minority. There has to be a definition. What we are looking at here is a definition
drawn up by people who are alien to our way of life. I have said it before, I said it last night, and I'll repeat it. The word Jew is what is called a corrupted version of Judah. In Israel, Judah is only but one tribe. But the name Judah took over everybody else, either by commission or omission.
Do you believe?
I need to answer your questions. You come to your question. We can stay here till tomorrow morning. We're not going anywhere. Jews took over. It doesn't mean that the other tribes are not there, like Benjamin and all the rest of them. They are still there. But the Jew took over. Nobody has been able to disprove me that the people of John, Efik, Ibibio, and Igbo people are from one family. Nobody has disproved it. They are one people. All this minority report was brought by the British. The British gave us a minority. Do you know the reason why? They wrote the minority report saying that the Calabars, the people in Akwa Ibom, if they go, what is going to happen to them? And when I was studying in England, many, many years ago, something occurred to me. Why did you not have a minority commission in the north, where you have the TV people, the Nupe people, the Wari people, the Birom people? Why no minority commission? Why minority commission here? It is the classic divide and rule. They found oil. The only way to have access to your oil is to divide you. Very simple. If I want to come to your family and take something from you, I'll get you fighting with your brothers. You're fighting, I'll be cutting away what you have. So that was why they set up minority commission. There is a difference in emphasis, because you see, African people sometimes are a bit stupid. And I'll tell you why I think so. We are very, very daft. A change or slight variation in language does not mean you're a different people. It doesn't mean that at all. In Israel, they have Yiddish. They have Hebrew. When Christ was on earth, he was not speaking Hebrew, he was speaking Aramaic. Does that mean he is not an Israeli? Does that mean that those that speak Yiddish are not Jewish people? Does it mean if you speak Hebrew, you don't belong? So why is it that when you speak Hebrew, you speak Ejo, you speak Efik, you're different? But in Israel, you have Hebrew, you have Yiddish, you have Aramaic, but they're still the same people. Do you see why I say I'm an educated man? I study to acquire knowledge. I just don't read to pass. I study to acquire knowledge. Why is it, if you go to Nsukka, we can pay for your ticket, you go to Nsukka. If they speak Igbo, if you hear one word, anything you want, I'll give you. The Igbo language is out of this world, completely different. Do you know, I'm from Ibeku. My mother is from Ibeku, so is my father. Our father, where I come from, our own accent and dialect is different from where my mother comes from. Does it mean we're in different countries? My dear brother, Ejo, the Izon people from Owerri, Arochukwu, and Nri are the same brothers, the same father, but not the same mother. The same mother gave birth to 3 sons. One stayed at Nri as the first son. One went to Owerri. One went to Arochukwu. If you come from that part of the world, including Calabar, you come from Arochukwu, go and ask them, they will tell you. That's where they come from. Did they fall from heaven? How did they get to where they are?
Holy, 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 Nnamdi Kanu is another savior. Yes, Nnamdi Kanu is another savior. And this is the part of Nnamdi Kanu I miss the most. I miss his broadcasts. I miss his teachings. I miss his schoolings, where he stages people, stages the government, stages everybody, teaches people, emancipates people from slavery, from slave mentality. Nnamdi Kanu has emancipated millions of Igbo and Biafrans from slave mentality. This is the part of Nnamdi Kanu they don't want you to see. They don't want you to have again. They don't want you to be emancipated. He was broadcasting this thing right at the heart of the home of the imperialists. They are not happy about it. They were never happy about it. And that is why they set him up. They set him up. And I'm beginning to understand that they set him up with people that he trusted the most. That is Nnamdi Kanu. That one you saw. I can't wait for him to come out of that prison. Yes. And the reason I cannot wait is not, I said it before. I don't want Nnamdi Kanu to come out again and start embarking on marches, embarking on protests. No. Nnamdi Kanu is coming back to educate Igbo, to lead in a very scientific way. Just like you saw him in that video. That is where he should be all the time. That is where the impact was done the most. I don't know why and how he found his way out to Kenya. You see that studio? You see that studio? That is where Kanu will sit when he comes out. It's all I ask for him. Finish. Either he goes to his house at Umahia and relax there. Renovate the house, of course. The house is in shambles. The house, I showed you the other day, the house is in shambles, is in shatters. Now the Kanu needs to renovate that house, put it in order, then travel back to Israel, perhaps, and set up his broadcast there, because we still need that. Without that broadcast, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be difficult to rally. It's going to be difficult to gather people or to spread information. It's very difficult, very difficult. So that broadcast is what I need from Kanu. Teaching of people like the one he did in this studio right now, talking about Biafra as a whole unit, that Nigeria does not have minorities, that minority was created by the British for their own good. These are secrets that is unraveled that puts him in trouble, because they don't want people to know that they are majorities. And I wonder how Nigeria is structured in a way that people even believe that they are minorities. Because actually, body is a minority in his own home. And you are still in your home. How did you become a minority? Wisdom choke. Wisdom choke. Ew. Wisdom choke. Wisdom choke. Wise man. Wise man. Nnamdi Kanu is inspired of God. He's not an ordinary person. Let nobody deceive you. Nnamdi Kanu is the only man I respect in Africa right now. I'm just telling you live. He's the only man I can use my whole 24 hours to talk about and vouch for. He's the only man, oh. He's the only man. There is no other person. And I have my reasons. Not only because he is my brother. That is important, of course. But because he's a man that stands on principles. Because he's not the only man that is my brother. But he's the only one that stands on principles. And there is what, principle is about. It builds trust. It builds the belief that the person you are following is also following something. You understand? It's following something greater. Where does he get his inspiration from? Is it from nowhere? It's not from nowhere now. There is a place Kanu is getting inspiration from, which people have not understood. Something greater and bigger than we understand as a people. Something greater than we see with our two eyes. Like Kanu was talking about in that video, a lot of things. The Israelis, they have lots of tribes, but none of them is a minority. These are wonderful times for us because we are marching on to the release of Kanu, which can happen anytime from now, because let me tell you something that you don't know. Nobody knows the time and day. Nobody knows the second, because anytime from now, like I told you, we'll announce the freedom of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Look, I have never felt surer than anything like this. I have never felt certain on anything than this. I am so certain about it. As well.
All right, you have welcome back from that video. Nnamdi Kanu is full of wisdom. And he will also back it up with history. It tells you history of what really happened. That we don't know based on that. Well, I want you to also have a view of this. Don't miss any part of this video because you will not like it or you will miss some vital information. So let's watch this and we'll come back. We might call it a day.
Barrister Dalenta Agumor, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
First of all, I don't know if you've heard about what happened during the weekend where we heard that, what happened at 2 different military bases. According to Sahara reporters, apparently top Nigerian army authorities have begun a crackdown on soldiers suspected of leaking operational failures to the media. The publication released that at least 36 soldiers and mobile police officers were killed during coordinated attacks in Gujba local government area of the state, and that the attack occurred on Thursday at 1 a.m. into Friday morning when Boko Haram insurgents stormed the theater training center in Buniyadi and the 27th Task Force Brigade in Bunigari. Both communities are in the hometown of Yobe State Governor Mai Malabuni. Now, apparently, they're tracking the military men who released this information to the press, and they don't want this thing to be leaked out until after the 2027 elections. According to what they're saying, we were told clearly that going forward, information about Boko Haram or ISWAP attack should not be made public until after the 2027 elections. I mean, Barrister, what does this even mean?
It's unfortunate that the military are playing this type of role for their men that are being slaughtered. Esther, do you know one of the reasons why the Soviet Union collapsed? It is this type of secrecy. They thought they could manage it. That time there was Cold War. So, so the 2 superpowers, America and the Soviet Union, they were hiding things, and the Soviet leaders were trying to cover up. Yeah, the thing was leaking gradually until what's his name, Gorbachev came and then opened up everywhere. So this thing that the military are doing, it will not help in the fight against insult. It will never help. I don't know their orientation, seriously. Is it not when they open up that the civilian public will now assist them? But when they continue to hide everything, you don't know anything. So what can you say? Are they not thinking along this line? You want to hide that your men are being slaughtered. Is it not a big shame? Can you cover 6 months old pregnancy? You cannot. No matter what you do, you cannot. Now, if you don't open up and let people know, especially your men, the internal combustion, you cannot handle it when it's now boomerang. The men that are going through this ordeal, they are not animals, they are human beings, they feel it. No matter the whatever they signed, they still have that blood flowing in their vein. There's no way they can see their men being slaughtered and you say they should not talk about it, they should not say anything. They have families, for God's sake, Esther. So this secrecy, that is the most dangerous aspect of this war. The military, I am warning you people. Whenever somebody dies, please open up. America, powerful as they are, whatever happens to their men, either internally or externally, Esther, you see it, that is publicity. They will show it that, yes, they have lost one man. Oh, they have lost, they are looking for somebody now. They say they died while training or something. As I talk to you now, America is looking for one of their men that is missing during training somewhere in, I think in Africa. Why didn't they hide it, Esther? To say that a whole superpower, how can they lose one of their men? It's an embarrassment. No! Not when it comes to death, Esther. This is our military. What are they learning, Esther? What are they learning? In fact, they are the ones that are causing all this problem for themselves. Is it not when you open up that the civilian can give you information, Esther?
No, Barry, so what baffles me is that I really don't understand how the strategy of the military has been.
In fact, there's no strategy here.
Because, Barrister, it's shocking that you don't want the press to know. You want to bury the truth because you don't want to be seen as possibly incompetent or that you've been infiltrated or that you've been politicized. Barrister, I don't know if you know one man they call a particular young man called English Alhaji. He exposes what actually happens when these guys go and invade certain communities. He highlights it even when the Nigerian army has not said anything. He also highlights when the Nigerian Air Force and the Nigerian military also does some achievements in clearing out Boko Haram. Barrister, during the weekend we saw him. He said that this terrorist contacted him via WhatsApp. There was a video. He recorded that video in In fact, he said he was so scared, and he's even praying that the Nigerian military would not also start trying to witch hunt him because of exposing. These guys showed their faces. Some of them were even speaking Yoruba, barrister. That's actually quite funny. They were speaking Yoruba. The two very young boys, they showed their faces. They were asking him if he was a Muslim. He said he's a Christian Muslim. They asked him to quote some Islamic or some Islamic phrases, which he supposedly did. They told him that he should stop saying to the Nigerian military and to Nigerians that anytime they see them, they should, kill them off. That if they catch him and kill him off immediately, would he like it? Barrister, these men were showing the military fatigue they were wearing of soldiers that they had murdered. They wore the uniform. They were showing all the bullets, all the Kalashnikov, all the weapons they have. They did not wear a mask. They did not hide their faces. And I'm so shocked, barrister, that up till now they can't trace these individuals. But do you know that the DSS, the NSA, trace accounts of persons who either speaks ill of the president or speaks ill of one political stalwart, or for one reason or the other, you try to voice out into what's going on with the international community like Israel or whatever. They're able to track you, arrest you, and bury you somehow in a hidden enclave. So please, I need to understand what kind of country are we in? What does this actually portend?
It's a sign of failure, Esther. It is simple. A sign of failure. The military know that they have been infiltrated and they know what is going on, but they don't want it to be exposed. It's as simple as that. With what you have seen so far, what you have heard so far, and what is happening so far, Esther, the military has been infiltrated.
They are saying that the report is damaging to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's image. Are you kidding me?
Can you imagine?
The fact that your soldiers, young boys, these soldiers are between the ages of 20-something, died, and you're concerned about protecting the president's image just because of 2027 elections. So that is literally how fickle the lives of every Nigerian is, or even our soldiers who are putting their lives on the front line is, just to protect the image of the president.
Esther, when you hear this type of thing from your own soldiers, please, what impression does that give you?
Barrister, do you know what is more alarming and literally heart-wrenching is that they are investigating how the report got to the media. They're not investigating how the terrorists infiltrated, got mappings and strategic locations. Do you know the soldiers that were killed? They were in training. They were in training. They were in the training academy. They killed them.
Esther, I think this thing is getting out of hand. Seriously, this thing that the military are doing, I don't know what type of mentality they have. They are not concerned about their men that died. They are concerned about knowing who leaked what. What they leaked, is it true or is it false? So you want to bury the truth, and you want the Nigerian populace to help you, to give you information. What exactly are these people talking about?
So, Barrister, the important thing to those people is 2027 election.
In fact,
every other thing can be thrown into the waste bin.
The military have joined politics. That's just the simple explanation. What is their own with 2027? Military. What is their own with 2027? If they have not joined politics, what is the meaning of that thing they just said? That means they have become part of APC. That is just the simple truth.
You set up pro-panel to track soldiers who leaked Yobe terror attack details to the media. You did not set up panel as to how the camp of your soldiers were infiltrated. You did not set up panel as to how their perimeter was breached. You did not set up panel to discover how leaks were supposedly disclosed to this mayhem, these vagabonds of darkness. You are setting up a probe panel on how information concerning your soldiers got leaked to the media. That's your concern, because you want to protect the image of the presidency because of 2027 election. So are we saying that there is a complete lack of will to decimate these guys, or it's all about damage control and anything can go haywire?
Esther, I have told you, this military, they don't want this thing to end.
No, Barrister, you can't say this military don't want this thing to end. I'm expecting whatever it is the military is doing. Could it be from an information or an order from the presidency? What is the National Security Advisor doing?
If they are professional,
what is the DSS doing? They're supposed to provide intel. Before, they are always reactionary. They're meant to always be at the forefront, not always be on the defense.
Esther, if this military are professional, should they listen to anybody in carrying out their operation? Are they not supposed to be on top of the game? So whether politicians are doing whatever, should they listen to them? But right now, look at what they are saying until after 2027. So what will now happen after that time? What will now happen? By that time, this terrorism will have become bolder and become emboldened, and it will be difficult for you to confront them. I said this military, they have failed me, seriously. They have failed me and Nigerians, because I don't see how these ragtag insurgents can keep them so busy for over 15 years now, and there are no solution, and they are here playing politics with the life of their own men, Esther, and they want you to come and join the military, Abi. No, with this thing that you are hearing and seeing, Esther, tell me that young man that will be so happy and willing to join the military. Just show me the person. That means very soon they will start recruiting the terrorists to join the army. Yes. By the time they decimate every other soldier, they will now beg the insurgents, please come and join us and fight your own men. Let me see how that will work. It will get to that point when no young man in Nigeria want to join the military because of what they are doing there. Esther, we don't have a military again because they have joined politics. They have joined politics. Forget about all these things they are telling you. Look at all the things that has happened, from the investigation of Dan Ali Kefas to so many other people that have told us things that are going on in the military. Is that the ideal military?
So, Barrister, what should we do then? Because even in the media, it's quite scary for you to report all of this. They don't want you to really concentrate on reporting it, because they may say you're trying to create a sense of apathy towards the government, or place the government in light of being irresponsible and nonchalant towards their responsibility to the people. But, Barrister, if the president disclosed to us, I think last month, that what we're seeing concerning insecurity is politically motivated, what is your counter reaction to ensure that those who are politically using insecurity to destabilize your government or derail the supposed progress of your government, what is your precise action to ensuring that they do not have the upper hand? Why would you want to cover such a melee, which obviously makes your administration seem incompetent, weak, docile, and selfish?
Esther, when you said that, do you know what I do? I said, please, President Tinubu, go to the mirror and say that thing, and look at the person you are seeing in the mirror. It's as simple as that. People are destabilizing your government. Can you truly say that is the fact? The answer is capital no. I told you here that APC, they have a way of blaming people for their ineptitude. Go and trace the origin of this thing. It came from APC. They cannot deny it. So why are they looking for who to blame?
Barrister, it's really bad. Cultism is on the rise. I don't know if you saw a video just 2 weekends ago where they shot a young boy at the gate after his examination at the gate of University of Benin. Barrister, it was a gory video. My God, in broad daylight. I was like, why? We don't even know what we are dealing with. We're dealing with Boko Haram. We're dealing with ISWAP. We have kidnappers, and then there's cultism. I don't know who's providing these guys weapons. They literally emptied their barrel on this young man. You needed oh God, Barrister, no. It's crazy. Young boys. So what are we saying? Are we encouraging moral decadence? It's like there's an absence of security presence that encourages all of this dirty misappropriation of responsibility.
Esther, I told you here that the society prepares a crime, the criminal just commits it. When you have now made Nigeria a terrorist state, what are you expecting from the youth, the young ones? No, tell me. What are you expecting from the young ones? That is the result of what all this you are seeing. When we are saying here, remove these politics you are playing with the terrorism, it will not help. Rather, it will now psychologically condition the mind of our youth. They will not believe that using force, using brigandage is the way of life. If you join court now, you can be able to be bold enough to do whatever you like. You can challenge anybody, you can do whatever. I said it here, but apparently, I mean, they wouldn't listen. So, where do you think we are going? Eh? With these insurgents and terrorists that nobody wants to stop, where do you think the youths are going? Are they not the one that play a major role in these things? Are they not the one? We are destroying our future, our tomorrow, our youth. And we thought it's a child's play. Esther, I fear what will happen in the days to come if this thing is not done, because the youth will now become urban gorillas. Eh? They will now share the territories. Maybe this group will take care of Okota. The other one will take care of Surulere. You know? Then the other one will take care of Agege. They will share it so that everybody have their own territorial control. If this thing is not come, it is coming to that at the end of the day, because you are the one that prompted it. You are the one that made it possible. The youth didn't just wake up and become what they are. No, they learn from their elder ones. They learn from their elder ones. So anybody making noise about you, this and that, you are wasting your time. They learn from you. Were you not here when someone say politics is all about grabbing it, snapping
it? All right, very quickly, because we have a live appearance coming up shortly. So the Labour Party eventually admitting they're mourning the exit of Peter Obi from the party, and they're saying that ever since he left, the party seems to have receded, you know, in terms of the vibrance that it once had, the pulsating recognition that it had at the time when he was there, as well as, you know, the inroads that the party was able to garner, especially with the young demography. And they're saying they're trying to restructure because there are questions as to, are you going to present a presidential candidate? No one is really talking about you guys. And what's the next, you know, step? It's funny because the Labour Party had made it seem like they were happy that Peter Obi exited the party. They also made it seem like he was the problem of whatever internal imbroglio they were facing, and that if he leaves, the party will then find some form of sanity or direction. So how come they're admitting that indeed his exit is a setback if they were once jubilating and happy and even wanting him to leave before he officially said he had left?
Where is Abure? Where is Papa? Where is what is that other man who claimed to own the lawyer, who doesn't want to leave office? Where are all of them, Nesta? I like what Peter B did. Seriously, I like it. That is my principle. If you are struggling over something and I feel that this thing is not worth it, I will leave you. I'm not joking. I will leave you. That is the only way you can make an impact. Not to say it must be do or die. You must die here. You must struggling with what? Now, who is regretting it? Is it not a Labour Party? It's good like that. Thank God they have come out to confess. But when Peter B was there, they were rubbishing him, talking all, you know, pretending. Okay, where are these people now and their paymasters? Let them eat your Labour Party. Esther, let them eat Labour Party. Abu Oya, take Labour Party. If you have the clout, or you go and contest now, and see whether your family member would even vote for you. Your family member. Whether you win their own vote. Not to talk of your village. That is how to deal with somebody, not by making noise. Esther.
The same thing also applies to the ADC. Although Atiku is had said, okay, fine, let's go ahead. David Mark admitted the loss of Peter Obi, but there was Rufai Sini interviewed. I think there's a private podcast that he has now. He interviewed one of the what do you call it, governorship aspirants. I think is it Oyo or Osun State
last Sunday.
Yes, exactly. And that person was able to reel out all of the issues in the ADC. According to what the person was highlighting, that the PDP, literally, the faction of the PDP that followed Atiku, wanted to take over the structure of the ADC, and that he wanted them to resolve, but nobody was resolving it, and that the state chairman that went to court were not being sponsored by the All Progressives Congress because they came to meet him to actually connect money. Then questions arose as to what was Peter Obi's take, and he said he heard that when Peter Obi was approached about it, he said if they wanted to leave, they should leave. Do you think that was the same time he was really recalibrating about exiting the ADC? There are also talks that the David Mark leadership was unapproachable. Aregbesola too. According to him, he said Aregbesola was so, dictatorial, and inaccessible, and he was like, he did not set up the Labour Party for any southern candidate, so it was obvious that from the onset their candidate was Atiku Abubakar. So due to this, led to Peter Obi's exit. Did he make the right call? Or he should have stayed on in the ADC and there would have been a formidable coalition?
No, he did. What he did is very correct, from ADC to NDC.
Okay.
If Peter Obi did not make that move, he would have been in limbo by now. Seriously. If he did not make that move, he would have been in limbo now, because Kenneth Okonkwo was blaming him. Please, how do you resolve such a matter when nobody wants to listen to you? Are you going to put gun on their head to cooperate? They refuse to do the right thing. Then leave them alone. That is even what what's it called now? The Bible said. Do not be unequally yoked.
With unbelievers.
Exactly. So, I mean, anybody that will blame Peter Obi, that person is not reasonable. What do you want him to? You can therefore demand made. He wants things to be done decently, like in other climes. So, why are you not doing it? You want him to turn into a monster. So, because you want to contest the election. Peter Obi, stay with the integrity you have. At the end of the day, Nigerians will realize what you are worth. It has happened from ages. Did anybody believe in Jesus Christ? Even his own people, did they believe in him? You are not the one that said, kill him, kill him. Today now, we are going to church every Sunday to ask for his forgiveness. It is always like that, Esther. My people perish for lack of knowledge. It didn't start today.
Barrister Darlington Agumo, thank you so much for giving us your insight on the World News at 6.
All right, viewers, you are welcome back from that video. Please don't forget to like this video, share this video, and drop your own comments based on the discussion so far about Nigeria. Well, I am still Chinedu until I come your way next time. Please drop your thoughts. We want to hear what you think about it. Say bye for now.